Hi everyone, welcome to week 5 of Workout Wednesday, Power BI edition. My name is Shannon Lindsay and I am going to be taking you through this week's solution. This week we are covering drill down and back up, of course, to round out the drill features in Power BI. Last week, for those of you who participated in week 4, you'll recall that we did the drill through feature where you can drill through to the details of a variable on another report page. This week we're going to keep it simple and look at drilling down and drilling up within a particular visual, just so that you can see how powerful that feature is for your end users. Quickly, I'd like to just take you through the requirements for the week. So we've got a fresh data set this week. If you all are brand new to Workout Wednesday, or if it's your first week participating, you will be just fine. You can jump right in. There is a sample or a starter Power BI desktop file that you can download from the website, and you can use that file to build your report. So essentially all of the backend, all of the data modeling, or data prep has been handled already, and all you need to do is jump in and build the visuals. We are keeping it fun this week, and we are looking at UFO sightings, so unidentified flying objects, by date, location, shape, and duration. I am from the American Southwest, so this really resonates with me. I remember hearing a lot about UFOs growing up. And what we're going to do is we're going to create some card visuals. We are going to create a column chart. We're going to add a matrix visual, and then we're just going to play around with using the drill down feature. What we really want to demonstrate is how you can use this to either drill down to details of an item or drill down through hierarchies. Particularly the ones that are, really straightforward and nice and simple are date hierarchies and geographic hierarchies. Those are both really nice to use with the drill down feature. So I'm going to demonstrate how the feature works, and then we'll jump in and we'll build it together. All right, so what we're looking at here are the global UFO sightings in the last 5 years. So what you can see, looking at the card visuals here, we've got 31,000 sightings, 22% of which happened in the American Southwest, and I actually am surprised. I thought that would be a little bit higher. And then we've got our suspected hoax, and you'll be able to see where this figure came from when you take a look at the measures, and we'll do that as we build. But what I really wanted to demonstrate this week is this use of the drill down and drill back up. What I wanted to show you here is you'll notice that you've got, when you hover over a visual, you see the appearance of this little toolbar up at the top here. And you get this little toolbar regardless of which visual you have. But when you have a visual that you have drill down enabled on, you will see these little arrows. So you've got your drill up button, you've got your drill down button here. The next one allows you to drill down to the next level. And then finally, this button here allows you to expand everything down one level and play around with them and see, what exactly they do for you. I'm going to show you here how they work in this report. So if we're looking at this report, we're looking at the year 2020, and we want to drill down one level. Let's just take a look at the visualization here. So we've got the date that the sighting was posted by year, quarter, month, and day. And with that, what that means is that when we drill down one level by clicking on the little down arrow, I'm going to select the year 2020 to drill into it. And what you can see here is that, wow, all right, so it looks like quarter 2 really is nearly double the sightings from quarter 1. So maybe we want to drill into that and we want to see what's going on in quarter 2. I'm going to go ahead and drill down one more time into quarter 2. And now what I can see is that, okay, something out of the ordinary, something extraordinary happened in June of 2020. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that little drill down button, and I'm going to turn drill mode off, and then I'm going to click on June. And what you'll see here is that all of the other visuals on the page are now going to cross filter according to this level in the hierarchy. So in June of 2020, There were 12 sightings in Boise, Idaho, and then, so on and so forth. So that is a quick example of drill down and then drill back up in your column chart. Now, another way to drill up and down is here in the matrix visual. So you'll notice that you do see these exact same options to drill down and drill up. So these exist here as well, but we've taken this one step further and made it a little bit easier for our end users by adding these little plus and minus items so that it more closely resembles a pivot table in Excel rather than, having the users have to understand exactly how to navigate all of these tiny little features. So that is what your final report should look like. Now let's take a look at how we built this thing. Alrighty, so your starter file should look something like this. You'll notice that in my finished version of the file, I had a dark color scheme going on. So we'll go ahead and build just like that. And we'll do it all together so that you can see what exactly I did. So the first thing we're going to do is set the background. I am going to navigate to the formatting paint roller with page background, and I am going to pick a color. Note that you can also pick custom colors and use hex codes. For the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to go ahead and pick a color from the default palette. I'm going to bring my transparency down to 0, and we're going to move on. The next thing that I'm going to do is going to add my title. So I'm just going to add a text box here, and I am going to call this Global UFO Sightings. Hot tip here, I like to be really precise about the way that my visuals are lined up, and that is built into the product, just similar to how it is built into PowerPoint. So I wanted to walk us through that. I'm going to go ahead and change the font color. I am going to change my font. Actually, let's just go ahead and make this bold, and I'm going to bring it actually down just a skosh. And what I want to do is make sure that this is centered. So I'm going to go to the Format tab of the ribbon, and this is my secret weapon when I am working in the front end here of Power BI. I like to always make sure that I'm aligning things properly, and that was not correct. I want to align center, not align middle, but you get the point. You can also go to the View tab and turn on the grid lines to make sure, or to help you with your report build. So I'm going to do that one more time. Since I moved that, I'm going to go to the Formatting tab, Align Center. Now I make sure that's it right in the middle. The next thing that I have is, you'll notice on my finished report, I have a little icon. And this is another trick that I like to use in Power BI, where I go into PowerPoint, I go to Insert Icon, and I will search for, in this case I searched for UFO, but let's see if there's anything for alien. I'll search for a different kind of UFO. I'll use this in PowerPoint. And then if you actually save it as a picture, it needs to be a PNG file. That will allow it to have a transparent background, and then you can bring that into Power BI. So I'll go ahead and here insert my image, and let's just get my UFO. And here I have my nice little image. Alrighty, so I've got my background done, we've got our title, we've got our image, which you all, I'm sure, are able to do. The next thing we're going to do is add our card visuals. So if you'll remember from the specs, we had 3 card visuals. They were sightings in the American Southwest, and those that were a suspected hoax. Those came directly from measures that already exist in the model. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a card visual to my canvas. I am going to drop my first measure in there, which is total sightings. Note here that the measures are already dropped into a folder here in the report, and you can tell the difference between a measure and just a regular field from your data in that it has this little calculator next to it. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the total sightings field into my card, and then I'm going to format this exactly the way that I want it. So right now what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and adjust the data label. I am going to change the color to white. And then I'm also going to change my category label and make that font white as well. Now we will have a Workout Wednesday coming down the line where we will talk about importing themes and making sure that things are, you know, branded to your organization and that all of the, you know, visuals that you build are built according to your theme. But for today here, I'm just manually doing this. So I've got my total sightings, and then the next value that I had was the percentage of sightings that occurred in the American Southwest. A quick way to do this, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste the visual just using shortcuts here, Control C, Control V, and I'm going to drag in my next value, percent in American Southwest. And I actually have to move it into the field. I can't just drag it onto the canvas. All right, so 22% were in the American Southwest. I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, let's do it differently this time. I'm going to add a card visual. My third variable that we wanted to look at were the proportion that were suspected to be a hoax. So which of these UFO sightings were suspected to be a hoax? And I'm going to go ahead and drop that measure into the visual. Now, here's a quick tip for formatting. I want my new card to be formatted just the same as my old card. So on the Home tab of the ribbon, I'm going to go ahead and select the Format Painter, and I am going to paint my next visual. All right, now if you want to change the text in your card values, you can double click or right click on the fields here, and that will change the naming of the field for that visual only. All right, so we now have our 3 card visuals, and the next thing that we need to build is our bar chart. In the bar chart, let's just refresh our memories here. We are looking at total sightings over time, and the time field that we're using here is actually the time that the sighting was reported. And the reason for this, honestly, is because that field is more complete in the data. And so I decided to use that over the date and time of the actual sighting. So we're going to go with the time posted. I'm going to just start with a straight up bar chart, and I'm going to put it where I want it. And the next thing I'm going to do is to drop in what I know is going to be the value. Okay, so this is just like working with pivot tables in Excel. It just takes a while to figure out where you have to drop all the fields. You will get the hang of it rather quickly. I'm going to drop my total sightings into the values, and then I am going to drop my date posted into the axis. Okay, now these colors are a little bit painful for my eyes, so I'm going to go ahead and fix this real quick, and then we're going to walk through how this works. How did we get this drill down? What is going on here? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fix these data colors. Right now, the palette that I'm working with is a high contrast or colorblind friendly palette. That's the one I have set as my default. But I'm going to go ahead and just swap this out for a little bit of blue just so that we can see it here. Next, I'm going to just make some minor cosmetic changes. I'm going to go ahead and remove those grid lines from the axis. I don't love those. I'm going to increase the font size because this is minuscule. And I am going to swap out the color to be white. I'm going to do the same thing with my x-axis. And remember, there is a systematic way to make these changes, and that is by creating a theme. And again, we'll go through that in another week coming up. But so here we go. I've got my total sightings by year. I've got my card visuals. They are not aligned, so let's fix that real quick. I'm going to align these at the top, and then I'm going to distribute them horizontally so they're all evenly distributed. All right, so what we've got here is our total sightings by year. And what you'll notice here is this is an inbuilt date hierarchy from Power BI. You know that because it's got this little date icon here next to the field. Okay. In the future, we're probably not going to be working as much with the inbuilt hierarchies. We'll be using date tables, but for today, this works. This is fine. And what you're going to see is when you drill down into the visual, the first level in the hierarchy that you see is year, and then you're going to drill down into the quarter, the month, and the day. Okay, if you drill down one level in the hierarchy, It's just like the demo that I did before, okay? You're gonna go to the quarters. And I do encourage you to play around with drilling down, you know, using all of the different buttons. So in this way, what I just did is I drilled down to one level in the hierarchy. So now you're seeing every quarter of every year. If I were to do that again, I mean, this essentially becomes unusable in this example, but what you're seeing now is every year, every quarter, and every month. And then if I were to continue, it goes all the way down to the day. Now, this feature is really powerful, particularly if you, you know your data, you know what potentially you could be looking for. I use this really frequently, either with date hierarchies or with geographic distribution. Those are the best and the most obvious. One other thing that you could do is let's go ahead and just select on the field here. I want to switch from the date hierarchy view to just looking at the actual date posted. And then what you can see here is like on the 25th of June, something was going on, something out of the ordinary. And so if we wanted to drill then into the shape of the sighting, what we could do is drag shape in the axis underneath posted, and then we'll select drill down, we'll turn on drill down, we'll go down one level. And now you can see on the 25th, the sightings that were most prevalent were these light sightings. So that's just an example of how you can use drill down in your column and your bar charts. For the final visual that we're adding to this page, we're going to add a matrix visual, and we're going to make it mimic what a pivot table would look like in Excel. This is an option. You certainly do not have to do it. It's something that my end users particularly like, but you know, to each their own. I'm going to go ahead and start by adding a matrix visual. I'm going to move it over here to the space on the canvas where I want it. And the first thing I'm going to think about is what are the key values that we're looking at? That's always where I like to start when I'm building visuals. So the values here that I want are the total sightings. I'm confident about that. I'm then going to look at these total sightings by location. I also want to look at them by shape. So what was the shape of the sighting? And then last but not least, I want to look at them by duration. Now, something that is interesting in the data, well, there are a lot of interesting things in this data. Number one, if you take a look at the location data, and let's just take a peek at that in the data view. If you look at the location data, you'll see that it is not standardized. There are a lot of different formats of the location. Similar with the other two fields that we're looking at here. The lights, the shapes of the sightings, those are rather standard. I just created one group to standardize, to group the unknowns and the blanks. And then the duration, this one is really all over the place. So if you wanted to have some fun, you could work in Power Query and clean this up a little bit. I just did not get there for this demo. But what we've just done is I want you to take a look at what's going on over here in your fields. So you'll see that you've created a visual that has drill down enabled. And then you've got your rows where you are able to drill by location. And then the next level of the hierarchy becomes shape. And then the final level of the hierarchy becomes duration. Okay, so let's take a look at what that looks like in practice. So as you can see here, I'm going to just actually go ahead and make these values bigger because they are nearly impossible to see. And I'm going to sort this with the highest number of total sightings at the top, just so that this looks like something useful. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to actually drill everything down to the next level in the hierarchy. So expand all down one level. And when I do that, you're going to see that I now have location, I have shape, and you see this for every single location, okay? Location and shape. If I expand down one more level in the hierarchy, I'm then going to see my location, the shape of the sighting, and the duration, okay? And it all looks like a table. And what you'll find is that when you play around in the formatting pane, this is all very customizable. So the first thing that I like to do that's really easy is to just change the style. You can play around and see what suits you. None is not going to work in this case because you cannot see it. So let's just go with minimal. And here, what I want to do, the next place I want to get to is to add the little plus and the minus in over here next to the values so that this looks like a table that people can expand in a way that feels familiar to them. So if you click on row headers over here in the formatting pane, and the first thing I want to show you is this stepped layout. So if you want to increase the indentation of the layout, you can do that here. And then important for this exercise is that you are able to turn on and off this little plus and minus button. So I'm going to go ahead and turn these on. And then all this does here is it enables your users with a different way to navigate through the matrix. So you could drill up by clicking on the drill up arrow, okay? Or folks may be more familiar with minimizing things and, navigating around with the controls that are built right into the visual. Okay, so this is the final piece of the puzzle for the report today. The last thing you'll notice that I did was I did some groupings here. So similar to PowerPoint, you are able to use the control key, select multiple visuals, right click and either group or ungroup, and you can then set a background for the whole group. So if you're not interested in using a PowerPoint background or some kind of an image as a background, this is a nice way to do it. So what I did here is I just made the background of each of my visuals, make sure that they match each other, and I spent some time tinkering around with the matrix visual just to customize it. Which brings us to the solution. So the challenge was to find the number of fireball-shaped UFO sightings in June 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I am going to start here. We're going to drill in to the year 2020 by turning on the drill down feature. June is in Q2. These are calendar year quarters. And I then see here I have the month of June. If I select June, I see that there were a total of 1,800 sightings in June. I am then going to look at what happened here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and there was one fireball-shaped sighting in Las Vegas, Nevada in June of 2020. So this is our final solution. We are using drill down in both the matrix visual and in the bar chart in order to see data at varying levels of granularity. So we hope that you all have learned something today, and we cannot wait to see you next week for week 6 of the Workout Wednesday Power BI Edition Challenge. Thank you so much.